Hi there. Um, I'm Gwen Raymundi. For those of you who don't know me, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist associate in the state of Washington, and I work with individuals doing trauma work, grief work, embodiment work, and I also offer online circles and classes on all kinds of things. And I have a new one coming up based on self-care, and it begins on November 1, and it's called Self-Care for Challenging Times, the Holiday Edition. And it's going to be all about how we can care for ourselves during what is typically a pretty challenging time of year, both just in our time, in our not being really great about our boundaries, and in our not being really great about just taking care of ourselves in general. And it can also be a time of lots of grief as we think about the people who are no longer with us, either because they've died or because relationships have ended. And it can be a time of grief also just around not just, but around the idea of the life we had wanted and we don't have, or the life we wished we'd had when we were younger and didn't. Lots of complex feelings come up around this time of year. And so the purpose of this circle is to help us talk about that and to find ways to help calm and soothe ourselves during what is really usually for many people a very busy time. And one of the things that we do when we begin the circle is that we will really focus on our nervous systems, and we will talk about how to calm them, how to soothe them, how some people call it resetting them. I don't know if that's the word I use, but definitely calming and soothing and helping us be in a very present state instead of a reactionary state. And our nervous systems are pretty whacked up in Western culture. We typically aren't real great about taking care of our bodies, our physiology, our nervous systems. We tend to stuff emotions. We tend to not have really great boundaries, and we tend to not process trauma. I wrote in the essay about what I mean by trauma and the different types of trauma, and that all of us have at least two of the three kinds. All of us have ancestral trauma, or also known as intergenerational trauma, and all of us live in an oppressive culture. How we experience that oppression, varies by many factors, including the color of our skin, our sexuality, our identified gender, our socioeconomic status, right? All these things come into play when we're talking about how our culture oppresses us, and yet it does oppress all of us to one degree or another. And so, because we all are carrying trauma in our bodies, and because we all are experiencing trauma, throughout our days, again, some to more of a degree than others, um, we need to find ways to be able to process that and to be able to calm it. And because we are carrying it, we also tend to experience anxiety, depression, to be highly reactionary to events or stimulus or criticism or arguments. We tend to get really escalated really fast. We can have mood swings. We can have appetite or digestion issues. We can have insomnia. We can, right? I mean, there's like a long list of things that go with what having unprocessed trauma in our bodies is about. So, one of the things that we need to start doing first is to be able to just calm our system, not just as if it's such a simple thing. Some of the things are actually really simple, but to be able to start to calm our system. And I will share in the circle, I think I have about 24 different little exercises now that you can do to help in the moment calm yourself, and also to practice sporadically throughout the day. Like I recommend to my individual clients when I start working with them that they set a little alarm on their phone 3 different times a day to stop and do one of these nervous system soothing exercises to get into the practice of it and to get it ingrained into their muscle memory, because it's really important that that we do these exercises when we're not highly activated, and we get them into our muscle, our body, and our subconscious memory, our implicit memory, so that we can connect to those exercises then when we are activated, and it's more of an automatic response instead of a I'm freaking out, I don't know what to do, what can I do, and trying to think of something to do when we can't actually access that part of our brain. So so in the circle, you'll get a PDF of all of those exercises, and I'll encourage you to practice a few of them yourself as we move through the circle. And most of them are incredibly simple things. Getting a glass of water, right? And just drinking it all at once. Like not, well, you could chug it, I guess, but drinking it, drinking the whole glass, and letting that, taking that time and letting the water wash through our systems. There's many reasons why that works, right? One, we're focusing on getting a glass of water and drinking it, which brings us into a different part of our brain, right? And then the other is that the water itself helps to wash out stress hormones, like cortisol, which is the biggest one, which can really affect our sleep, our appetite. It can cause physical pain, joint pain. Cortisol is really not great for us to just have sitting around in our bodies. So the water helps literally wash it out of our system so we can pee it out, right? So that's like one really simple thing that you can do, throughout the day. Just keep drinking water. Keep drinking water, right? A second, I'm going to share two. Water is one, and the other one that's a very simple thing that you can do is to tap your lip. And it's tapping your lower lip mostly, but it's both of them. And what this does is it causes you to salivate. And when we salivate, we can't be in a stressed response state. Because if we're in a triggered or stressed or flight or fight state, also a freeze or fawn state, any of those trauma states, our mouths go dry. That's part of our physiological response to a traumatic event, is that we our mouths go dry. And so when we quote force our mouths to not be dry, which is another reason why drinking the water works, right? But when we do this, it actually sends messages to our brain and our nervous system that we're okay, we're safe, we're not in physical danger. We don't need to get into this highly activated state. So those are two of the, again, couple dozen exercises. Very simple, very basic. This you can do anywhere. Drinking a glass of water you can do almost anywhere, right? These aren't things like going to the spa. If you just went to the spa every week, you'd be totally okay. For those people who can afford to do that, I highly recommend it. Seriously, really, if you can do it, do it. And most of us don't have those kinds of resources. So what we need is self-care items that are actually doable and accessible. And anybody can tap their lips, right? Almost anyone can get a glass of water, right? I mean, there are certainly parts, even in our own country, in the United States, where that's not actually possible to get good drinking water, but many of us can, right? So That's what this circle will be about. It'll be about finding ways to help calm ourselves. That's what the first month is really focused on. What are the tools we need to get into as we move into Thanksgiving and all the winter light festival holidays, right? And then the new year. What are those? And I'll talk next time about boundaries and the physicality of our boundaries, which is also tied to our nervous system and all of our sensory receptors. And I'll talk more about that then. But for now, I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you enjoy the essay that goes with it. Okay, I'll talk to you again soon. Mwah.